Reach out for healing hands. When you feel like you're living within the anger chapter, it's time to reach out for help. Unfortunately, when we have a traumatic experience we can't understand, our mind replays it over and over in the hope of finding a resolution. Reoccurring dreams and flashbacks are normal, so don't fear them. Don't be anxious about getting help if feelings become too prolonged or intense. Call a doctor or counselor with whom you feel comfortable, or the police, who are highly trained to assist you immediately. If you have a loved one who is having difficulty coping with life, please get him or her to help without delay. Don't take it for granted that he or she will come out of it on his or her own, or try to convince yourself that you don't want to embarrass him or her. This does not protect the relationship, and I know firsthand that secrecy does not help in any way. You need help to help. Offer professional mental health care support straight away. Don't voice your condemnatory shock at their threat. This will put a distance between you and your loved one. Do not judge, shame, bawl out, criticize, lecture, cuss out, berate, or kick out a member of your family who is suicidal or has even made one threat of suicide. I don't care how their threats made you feel at the moment. You'll only worsen their depression and hopelessness. I fully understand the furious anger felt towards suicidal people. I suppress that anger daily, every single day of my life. I am not perfect. I am all too human when handling this tragic choice. But here's a bit of advice. Don't be a browbeater, people. Remember that the overwhelming compulsion to end it all does not last forever. But for reference, severe suicide notes are notorious for containing first-person singular pronouns. This reflects a high self-awareness. Suicide notes infrequently use inclusive language, such as plural pronouns, we and us. The writers of suicide notes usually speak of themselves as being estranged and isolated from friends and family. Suicidal individuals may begin to give away their most prized possessions. These are both stark signs of an unyielding need for professional help. Please call 1-800-272-TALK, 911, or 1-800-SUICIDE for more information. The majority of suicidal individuals already feel socially disconnected and mistakenly believe that they are a heavy burden upon others. They thoroughly believe everyone would be better off without them. "Nobody will miss me when I'm gone" is a common thread, as if their deaths are worth more than their lives. This is not the time to throw stones at them. Prideful mouth breathers, there is no such thing as tough love when helping the depressed. Sometimes people we love get into dark places, and this is when we should draw them in, not push them away. This is not the time to lecture on the value of life or dare an individual at risk to do it. Most think of suicide as a cowardly act, and for survivors it is. But to complete something as severe and daunting as death by suicide requires a fearlessness. Like it or not, suicidal people are often driven mad by the desire to kill themselves, but they cannot bring themselves to do it. Studies of suicide victims show more than half pursued medical help in the 6 months before their deaths, meaning many reached out for help. Most people who commit suicide don't want to die. They just want to stop hurting. A suicidal person is in such pain that he or she can see no other option but death. Most suicidal people are not insane or psychotic. They're distraught, heartbroken, depressed, and/or feeling hopeless. Extreme depression and emotional pain are not always signs of mental illness, but are reactions to punishing agony. With the recent focus on bullying sparked by suicides of young people who are hectored as outcasts, a new or newly articulated risk factor for suicide has grown: humiliation. Humiliation is its own very private experience, with its own equally private triggers. How and why certain events might brutally transgress honor and dignity in one person, yet the same events barely touch the next, remains inscrutable. Kent Sepkowitz, The Daily Beast. If you believe that someone you care about is suicidal, be a hero of suicide prevention by showing that you care, pointing out the alternatives, and getting him or her assistance from a counselor or doctor. Make your words heal, not wound. Do not minimize their pain, and never give up. A suicidal crisis is almost always temporary. Survivor's guilt can be hard for people to understand. I recognize the frustration more than anyone, but never confront in wrath something you do not understand. This only makes things worse for everyone involved. I'm not trying to idealize suicides and suicidal people with the halo effect, but I am explaining my identification as someone who has felt that level of depression. If you're unsure about whether or not someone is suicidal, ask him or her. Secrecy and silence is like a cancer. Nobody becomes suicidal by knowing others care. When you are lovingly concerned, your voice and manner will express it. Be sympathetic, non-judgmental, composed, tolerant, and accepting. Offering a depressed and/or suicidal individual an opportunity to express his or her repressed feelings provides comfort in times of loneliness and may even stop a suicide attempt. I know what you're thinking. How in the world do you begin that conversation? Hey, Mike, you thinking of committing suicide? An unassuming way to start talking is stating, "You haven't seemed your awesome self lately, Mike. How are you doing?" You may receive a blank, generic answer of, "Fine," but you have begun to express that you care. What you can say in return is even simpler. "I'm here for you. You're not alone." Knowing someone is there merely to listen is like a comforting blanket that wraps around your soul. You make the conversation continue. "I may not understand exactly how you feel, but I do know your state of mind is temporary. When you feel like giving up, remember that I love you, and hold on." Everyone needs to feel loved. However, don't take responsibility for healing your loved one. Offer him or her support, but remember that a suicidal person has to make a personal commitment to professional recovery. Even if the conversation feels moot or goes bad, the fact that you're having it is a positive sign.